What's up, ladies and gentlemen, everyone under the sound of my voice? I'm just teasing. I am Anissa Reed. I'm a business consultant here at Stevens Consulting Group. Also a passion of mine. I'm the owner and CEO of Neo Life Coffee and Tea.
Which, by the way, that's what I'm drinking. It's your, what is it?
Guatemala.
Okay.
Guatemala.
And it's so good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, who's on my right?
Hello, guys. People always say that I say, hello, guys. But that's my way of really introducing you to who I am. Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Nathel Stevens. I am the CEO of Stevens Consulting Group. And I'm just so excited to just have a conversation about what I've been doing, the personal journey that I've been on with my finances in launching a new program that I call MoreNopoly. I know that when you've grown up, everybody's played Monopoly.
Yeah.
Everybody's played the game of Monopoly. And I always shared that I always wanted to buy the blue items, which was Park Place and Boardwalk. Or Boardwalk and Park Avenue.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes.
And I wanted to buy all the railroads.
Yes.
And so in really fashioning and thinking about that game and really wanting to take people through the journey that I went through in 2014 when I went on a financial fast, and it literally changed the landscape of my life. And so at the end of 2021, I began to get an urgency to share my story. Like, tell people what you went through to change and to be in a predicament to do the things that you're in now. And so the Lord led me to develop a 40-day financial fast.
Okay.
And so as I was thinking about words and names to call it, I texted Anissa and Bobby in a group chat and was like, I don't know, what about Monopoly? What about Monopoly? And then Anissa texts back and say, I like the name, but what about MoreNopoly instead of Monopoly? Because that's a name already taken and used. And I was like, oh, I love that. We're going to call it MoreNopoly. And there was birth MoreNopoly. And it's literally a 40-day financial fast. Not a food fast, but a financial fast. And it's a place where no malls, no Home Goods, no TJ Maxx, no Burlington's, no Ross, no shopping at all, no Amazon Prime. We are not being consumers during this 40-day fast. We're trying to become producers. So Anissa is a part of it. She helps me share. She helps share the stage with me. And so let's talk about MoreNopoly.
Yeah, MoreNopoly. I tell you, my mindset, I can tell you, has shifted when it comes to money. And going into it, I needed like a whole week to regroup with this fast. I needed a whole week to regroup. And when I say regroup, mentally.
Yeah.
Because I was so mad at myself for my past spending habits. Because working in corporate America, I had a steady paycheck, not thinking that 2020 was going to take place.
Come on.
But depending on that, I'm like, girl, you used to make some money. Where is your money? So I had to deal with that a whole week, forgiving myself and changing my mindset as I prepared for this 40-day financial fast. And I can tell you, going into it, I thought it would be one thing, but because of God's grace and mercy, I'm sorry, I got to take it back to him.
Come on.
Because of his grace and his mercy, there's so many other blessings and so many other things that have been manifested from a 40-day financial fast that has just covered a variety of things in my household.
Wow, that's real good. Yeah. That's real good. And you know, when I started the fast and started getting people coming aboard, I never anticipated the outcomes. I never anticipated how impactful it would be. Yeah. And so even myself, I've joined the fast and I've recommitted to getting back to some of those basic principles and concepts regarding money. Because one of the first concepts we started dealing with was the mindset. We're in
Yes.
actually day 17. Today is day 17. But we spent the first week dealing with our mindset about money. Why do we think the way we think about money? Where does it come from? And one
Right.
of the things that we talked about was originally in the agrarian age, that was the age where you had all the entrepreneurs. You had all of the farmers and people in the textile industries, all of the people that had trades. And then we shifted from the agrarian age to the industrial age, where the industrial age is where you took on more of a need for employees.
Yes.
And out of that, out of the industrial age came the Perusian system. Now, this is how deep it is when we start talking about money.
Right.
It came the Perusian system, and the Perusian system is what we in the U.S. and the Western world know. And there were two goals for the Perusian system, and that was to produce soldiers and produce employees. Come on now.
That's good.
That was the whole goal. So we were transitioned from an agrarian age to where we were entrepreneurs to now being through the mass educational system. All we need is soldiers and employee. And that's where we adopted the poverty mindset. It's from that age. And so it's really shifting. Why do we think the way we think? Why do we have the spending habits the way we have it? And so from that is the reason why we dealt with mindset first, because the first thing we learned was that millionaires are made by how they spend, not how they earn.
If I can share with you my shift, when you
Okay.
said you were shifting our mindset, the shift for me is when, and I love how you bring everything back to scripture, back to biblical, and it helps us so much. You have no idea. The shift for me is when you broke down in the book of Genesis, be fruitful and multiply.
Come
Do you
on.
know how many times I read that
Come
scripture?
on, come on.
And, you know, from tradition and, you know, our grandmothers,
Yeah.
they taught us, you know, that's be fruitful, that making babies. But it's so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
So if you can kind of like just talk about that, those that are, you know, just listening to us chat about MoreNopoly, if you can kind of share with them the breakdown of that, be fruitful and multiply.
So in the book of Genesis, when God created Adam and Eve, he gave them, and I always say that's really we think the first commandments were the 10 commandments, but when he created man, he gave them some commandments. And Genesis 1:26 through 28 talks about, he's telling them, okay, now this is what I want you to do. I want you to be fruitful. I want you to multiply. I want you to replenish the earth. I want you to subdue it. And then I want you to have dominion. And so when we look at the word fruitful, we look at that as have kids. We just want you to reproduce and have kids. No, God could have said, I want you to vegetable. I want you to meat. But he said fruitful. And when you look at a fruit, fruit is the only thing that what you see on the outside, there's a seed of it on the inside.
Come on.
So when you plant an apple seed, you get an apple. When you plant a orange seed, you get an orange. And so what God was really saying is, I've created you. And what I want you to do, the thing that I put on the inside, the seed that I have on the inside, when I blew breath in your body, I want you to produce that same thing on the outside. So that's what God is saying when he say fruitfulness. And I've been saying this, everything that we've done up until this point has been God's way of getting us back to original intent.
Yes.
Getting us back to the place where we are fruitful, where we're multiplying, where we're replenishing the earth, where we're subduing it, and where we're having dominion.
Yes.
And that's all a mindset. When you
Yeah.
begin to challenge people that you are bigger than your current circumstance financially.
Yes. But I have to tell you on my holistic, because you know I'm going to come, like you come back from that
Yeah.
biblical, because you are a minister, you are a preacher and a teacher. And I'm a preacher and a teacher on the holistic side.
Yes.
You know, I always revert things back. And then you made me think about, we know that organic fruit is so much better for us. There's no such thing as a seedless grape.
Come on now.
That was made in a laboratory.
Come on now.
Okay? So when you're saying going back to our roots, going back to what's seeded, I mean, that scripture, we can preach. We can
Come on now,
tag
just
team
that
and
right
preach
there.
with that alone about the seeds. So you know you're not getting anything that's organic and of the earth if you don't have a seed.
Come on.
Do you remember when bananas had seeds?
Come on. Yeah. Yeah.
Now you get them, there's like 4 little brown lines in the bananas.
Yeah.
That's not from the earth.
Come on. Come on. Ooh, that's good. And you know what? So there's an alternative form. Now, just using an example of seedless grapes and fruits that have no seeds being an alternative to what the real and the original is, that's the whole plan of the enemy. He always presents an alternative plan. That's the whole issue with money, is because money is just a tool. And there's always present before us an alternative plan to get us off the course from going through original intent. We were created to dominate. And that even includes your money. I don't care where you're at right now. There is a winner on the inside of you. And so in order for you to get MoreNopoly, you have to learn the language. Even Daniel, when they went into Babylonian captivity, they had to learn for 3 years the custom of the new system. And so that's what it is when you start talking about taking control over your money. Since it's a tool, you have to now learn how to use it the appropriate way. And so part of that, the hardest part, is a mindset. I know even for me, going on this fast, paying off all the credit card debt, using my money not in the malls, not giving my money and purchasing liabilities, but now taking my money and use it to buy assets.
Yes.
And so that was where we started. We started with the mindset, and then we started transitioning and dealing with the budget. Ooh.
Okay.
The budget is like the mirror. The budget is like getting on your scale. I was sharing with the group that when I it was a time in my life when I went to the doctor, and they would, they always come in and do your vitals. Take your blood pressure, take your temperature, and get on the scale. I used to turn my head away from the scale like this and tell the nurse, just write the number on the paper. I don't want to know how much I weigh. When reality, in order for me to be extended to have life to the full, into an overflow, I needed to face how much I weighed in the face and deal with it. That's what a budget does.
Yeah.
So we spent the next week really dealing and learning about our budgets. Tell us about that process.
Well, what you just said, that's a perfect example. How you didn't want to look at what that number was on that scale. That's how I was with the finances. I didn't want to look at what that number was right there. So that's a great correlation as to when we got to the budget part of it. And a key word that you said was changing the language.
Yes.
And you say that often, you have to talk to your money.
Yes.
And I incorporated that even in my household as a partnership. I was still living like a single woman.
Wow.
I mean, with finances, why do you have 2 Netflix accounts?
Come on.
So you're going to give them your money from here? Because y'all won, but you're going to allow him, he's going to give Netflix money, and you're going to have, why? You living like a single woman. And when you're talking about you have to speak to your money, you also have to speak to your spouse. You got to communicate.
Ooh, that's good, Anissa.
Not when you're in a bind.
Come on.
Not when something due. So you have changed not only the mindset with MoreNopoly, not only the communication or the language when it comes to money, but you have made it a safe space. This is why you walking into your calling, sis. You have made it a safe space where it's not a defensive conversation when it comes to our finances. It's more of like love language.
Ooh, that's good. That's good because it's a tool.
Yeah.
And it can be used as a tool to even bring couples together, because the highest divorce rate is surround finances.
Absolutely.
And so what the budget did was everyone had to write down what their monthly income was and begin to chart every expense, because part of from day one, what we did was we have a spending journal, and everybody's encouraged to write down everything they spend every day. I don't care if it's a bill that's coming out of your account through ACH, if it's a check you use, and we're not using credit cards, and we're limiting the use of our debit cards. And then we wrote down every expense, and at the end, you were able to see your under or overage. Some people found out that they don't have enough income.
Yeah.
So they got to cut expenses. Some people found out, hey, I remember one of the participants said in our budget session, them people say I make money, and they found out they had extra money. And so when you take a look at in depth in your budget or your cash flow plan, it kind of helps you understand where you can make adjustments.
Yes.
And where you can start investing other money. Because we even addressed the Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, where it's just like a square. And there are 4 squares. To the top left, you have the employee. To the top left bottom, you have the self-employed. To the top right, you have the business owners. And then to the bottom right, you have investment. And the goal is to get everybody on the right side of the quadrant. And I was sharing with you guys in the book of John.
I need the right side.
We want to move to the right side. Right side. And I was sharing in the book of John when Jesus them were out fishing, and he told Peter them to go back out and cast their nets on the right side of the boat. He could have said any side. But when I read that, it was a leap. He was trying to get them. He knew where the money was. He knew where the overflow was, and it was on the right side of the quadrant. And I'm telling you, when that revelation came, the illumination came, and that's the goal, because that's the goal that moves you from a consumer to a producer. So we talk a lot about consumer and producer, and a consumer is someone that's just constantly buying liabilities. You're a consumer. The world drives off of consumerism. Think about it. When the pandemic came in March of 2020, immediately shortly thereafter, the government did what? They gave us stimulus checks in hopes to stimulate the economy. They wanted to make sure that consumerism continues.
Yes. And
so what we had to shift was the mindset of buying, to now let me shift it to becoming a producer. Let me find things. Let me put away money so that I can begin to invest. No amount is too small to invest. We use the example of you can buy a BMW for $63,000 at an 8% return over a 60-month period. Had that same $63,000 was invested, it could have netted you $302,400.
Okay.
You got a $63,000 liability. Same money with an 8% term over a 60-month period could have netted you $302,400. That is where we need to be. We need to begin to look at money, not at its current value, but its invested value.
Yes, yes. Wow.
It's invested value.
Yes.
You're thinking, oh, it's only $500, but $500 over a 60-month period could yield you $25,000. You know, I'm just giving out numbers.
Right.
So when you're spending and when you're becoming a producer, they're not looking at the current value of the money. They're looking at the invested value. Even the Bible commands that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children.
Yes, yes. So you took me back to thinking about our why.
Ooh.
It took me forever. And I think the why is something that we're gonna constantly go back and tweak.
Yeah, that's good.
You're gonna add on to it, not take away,
yeah.
But I think it's something that we're gonna constantly add on to as we go through this 40-day financial fast. We're on day 17, correct?
Yes.
And I love how you added Proverbs.
Ooh, that was Holy Ghost.
When I tell you Proverbs will get you all the way together, convict you, and then have you shouting at the same time. Talk to the people. Share, I know we're just having a conversation about this, but kind of talk to the camera. Tell them about that, your revelation. Why did you, or why did God direct you to include that in this fast?
So what happened with Proverbs, I was home and the Holy Spirit was like, start reading. I didn't even count the days or anything. It's like, I didn't know if we had 20 days left, whatever. The Holy Spirit said, start adding. Tomorrow, you're going to give them the assignment to read a proverb a day. And not only are they going to read a proverb a day, they're going to save the same amount of money based off of the proverb they're reading. So you're challenging them to get an envelope, write the word MoreNopoly on the envelope, write their why, and every day that they read that proverb, they're saving that amount of money. So you're reading Proverbs 1, you're saving $1. You're reading Proverbs 2, you're saving $2. Proverbs 3, you're saving $3. Proverbs 4, you're saving $4, and so forth. And the issue and the application is teaching them how to physically put money away every day. It's developing a habit over 31 days of saving. And I challenge them, don't count up how much money is at the end of the week and say, I'm going to put it in. The goal is to challenge yourself every day to put away a little bit. Okay. Every way, but put away a little bit. It's just $1 a day. It's $2 a day. And at the end of the 31 days, we would have collected $496. For some people, they've never saved that much money. Never. But it's the habit of
if somebody was a person.
But it's the habit of putting away a little bit, because we've been convinced that we need a lot of money to be rich. Do you not know a millennial, a person at the age of 20 that puts away $9,000 a year in 40 years will have at least $3 million saved? Think about it.
Wow.
You're thinking, because remember, wealth compounds over time. I'm going to say that right there.
Wow. Yeah. Because
Will, how old are you?
26.
Will is 26. If Will started this year, and I think I challenged him to do an IRA, if he started this year putting away 20% of his income, or $9,000 right now, by the time Will is 66,
wow.
And I'm going to challenge him to do that, Will have over $3 million if it's invested, and that's just in a fixed account. That's just in a sure, where he's going to get a sure return.
Like
that's
you
not
just set it and forget it type thing.
Set it and forget it.
Okay.
If he did that, that's why I'm challenging. It has to go. I think I'm going to do a MoreNopoly just for millennials.
I think
just to work with them and I think when I come out of this, I'm going to do it just for millennials to help them not make the mistakes that we made. Because what we do, we set it, but we don't forget it. Oh, I need to take money out of it to buy a house. No, that money is for future income.
Yeah.
Set that 20% of your income away based off of what you're making. And when you set that 20% of your income away in 40 years, if it just compounds at the traditional compound rate, you can have $3 million.
But that's one thing I love about millennials. They challenge us. Not only do they challenge us and help us get ourselves all the way together, they are not scared. No. I don't care what people say.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah, I think we take risks. Like, it depends, because I think, speaking for myself and like my friends, we're very like, when it comes to our car notes or whatever debts we have, we're trying to figure out how can we get this paid off as fast as possible. You know what I'm saying? It's not like traditionally where it's, I'm just going to make my payment each month until my loan term is over. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's good. And I think the challenge is, and I think the reason why the millennial generation has been like that is because the cost of living has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And because the expenses have increased over the decades, they can't afford to have all of the payments traditionally that our forefathers had. Because things are so high, and they're trying to figure out, number one, they're not, the consistent habit of staying in a place 30 years, that's not this generation. They don't do that anymore. No. You don't have no one that's retiring. Too.
That goes with the jobs too.
They're moving back to more of an agrarian age where they're entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Where they're tapping into the creative side. And because they're tapping into the creative side, they have to live with risk or faith. They call it risk. I call it faith.
Yeah.
And so part of that is now taking all of the things they have on the inside and having them focus on this, because they don't have the traditional. A lot of companies don't offer 401k anymore.
Yeah. So
they don't have the traditional means of saving or investing. And then retirement is nothing.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, walk into Walmart's, it breaks my heart to see old people retire, working again, because you're getting a retirement time. Who can live off $1,200 a month?
But just the other night when we went to see our Sarah Lettucey, the same thing. The staff there were all of age.
Yeah.
They were of great age.
And that breaks my heart, because they worked all their life to retire, to realize they didn't have enough to even support their current lifestyle.
But if we could go back to biblical times, because we know there's nothing new under the sun, and every generation has a season. Mm-hmm. How would you relate the millennials in the season
So when I think about the millennials, Joseph to me is a perfect example of that.
Yes.
Joseph has a dream, and he thinks the dream originally is about his brothers and father serving him. But in realistic terms, when you read the Bible and in the concept of what it was meant to really invoke, is Joseph now goes on a path, and what he thinks is a simple dream about him really becomes about him saving a nation and his entire generation. And so Joseph faces challenges. He's thrown into the pit. He comes from the pit and he goes into Potiphar's house, and he goes from Potiphar's house into the prison, and he goes from prison into the palace. And it's only because he has a dream and he's able to interpret the dream for Pharaoh that he finds out that during the 7 years of plenty, he was able to save grain. Now, this is what I love about that story. It says that Joseph saved grain in every city. And so when they went into the 7 years of famine, everybody had to come get grain from Joseph because he saved in every city. And so when I think about the millennials, it's the concept of saying, okay, I had this dream. I don't even really know how to articulate the dream I have. And sometimes I'm articulating it to the wrong people in the wrong places in the wrong time. But I still know I have something that's bigger than me on the inside.
Yes.
And so I think that's what's happening with the millennial generation. I actually parent a millennial. It's I want it now. I get it now. I'm going, they have so many external factors looking at social media, and sometimes they're forced to be like, oh man, I'm not as far in life as I need to be. And I always say, social media is awesome, but trust me, you're only seeing the highlight reels of people's life.
Yes.
They're only showing you the good things. And sometimes if you're caught up, you can want to be like them and do all of these things. But I'm telling you, it's only a small fraction of their life that you're seeing.
Right.
And so if we can just really get them to channel that energy and really save, because our parents did not have the conversations about investments and savings. And, my dad bought everything cash. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of my money habits of really not being in debt and doing came from my father, because he just did not believe in debt. I think everybody on my father's side of the family have no mortgages on their homes. They all own their homes.
Wow.
Nobody has awesome. No mortgage at all. My dad, my uncles, everybody's house is paid off. Because my father's side of the family just doesn't believe in debt like that.
Yes.
And so I think really, we watch and model that behavior, but I think we owe it to the generation behind us to have these types of conversations.
I agree.
And so I think out of working with this group, I really want to focus on the millennials. Imagine if we take 20 millennials and work with them. In 30 to 40 years, we'll have 20 more millionaires, And so It's really getting them to really understand the concept of delayed gratification in a world that says, get it now, do it now, and do the microwave.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true. The microwave generation, that's what I used to call them.
Oh, wow.
The microwave generation, because it was like, I want everything fast. So you're not going to look at the details. You're not going to look at, how this was created. They're more of the conventional at times. Yeah. They're more of the conventional generation, whereas we know we got to plant a seed in order to grow.
And I think that one of the things we're talking about generations, I think even with working with different generations, because MoreNopoly has people from all generations, baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, and I even got one zillennial on there. And so depending on where you are in life, that's going to determine your path. All the millennials and zillennials, y'all need to save for a better future. Maybe someone in Generation X, you may want to focus on getting out of debt and saving. Maybe if you're a baby boomer, at this point, you're not concerned about getting out of debt. What you're concerned about is aggressively saving for retirement. So it really depends on where you are in life. And that's why we did the budget. That's why we're going to move into credit. We're going to move into debt management, because some people literally need to get out of debt. Yes. Just imagine if you had 4 credit cards. On the average, you're spending $50 a month on those credit cards. We're not going to even talk about the crazy interest you pay on an item that's $200 that you probably end up paying $700 for by the time you pay all the interest. Mm-hmm. But if you took that $50 for each credit card, that's $200 a month that you can have invested somewhere. In the run of a year, that's $2,400 that you can have to invest somewhere. Crazy. See, we don't look at it like that. We look at it, oh, it's just $50. No, at the end of the year, that's $2,400 that you can have in an investment plan, gaining some interest. And so that's the mindset. That's the goal of Monopoly. That's the goal of this financial fast, is to really get people to shift their mindset about money, to begin to have conversations about wealth, and to look at their current spending habits and focus on their why.
That's good. Well, I'm excited to come back to this table and chat more as we go through this fast, MoreNopoly. I hope more are joining, because your numbers, we're in Clubhouse at 5:30 a.m. in the mornings, and when I tell you, you think you can't receive the fire that early in the morning,
honey,
that's early now. But the way that the movement of the Holy Spirit and your purpose that flows in that room, eyes have not seen, ears have not heard. So I'm so excited for you. I'm so happy to be a part of that journey. And shouldn't say
the Toastmaster
should not say but I'm very excited about you as a person walking into your purpose and teaching the nations, because I know that's a passion of yours. Any last words regarding MoreNopoly as we close this conversation? But we will be back.
Well, actually, I had a quick question before we close.
Okay.
So obviously a lot of your foundation is rooted in faith, right? Mm-hmm. But what would you say to those people who may not have a strong foundation in faith, or they may not, be super spiritual, or, what I'm saying? What would you say to help them with their finances?
I'm glad you brought that up, because money is a tool. It's atypical. It's not spiritual. It's not emotional. It's literally a tool. And so the same principle, because a lot of people, even a lot of millionaires that are atheists, that don't believe in God, they still have the same principles. See, the guiding principles that we're learning in MoreNopoly is literally in how you think. Because you have people of faith that still have limiting beliefs concerning money. So you don't have to have my personal journey is based off of spiritual. I can tie everything back to a biblical principle. But in terms of being a good steward, in terms of knowing how to manage your money, in terms of spending your money, that's not either spiritual or not spiritual. That's just a principle that you learn, a principle that you apply to ensure that your money has a return on it. Right. And so that's the biggest part of people of faith, or people that don't have any faith. Because remember, to me, faith is risk.
Yes.
So people in the world may call it, I'm taking a risk. And basically you're
having faith. Yeah.
And so when you learn that money is just a tool.
Yeah.
And money is not spiritual, it is the currency of the earth.
Yes.
That's what money is.
Yeah.
And the Bible says it answers all things.
Yeah.
So when you're calling and the FPL needs that bill paid, guess what? Money is the tool that answers it.
That's it.
When your mortgage broker needs that, or your mortgage company needs that mortgage paid, money is the tool that answers it. So it answers all things, and it's time that we begin to have conversations about it. It's time that we deal with it, because what happens a lot is people of faith act like they don't want to talk about money because everything's spiritual. No, we need to deal with money.
Yeah.
The Bible talks more about money than anything.
Faith without works is dead.
Come on now.
That's the end of the story.
The end of the story. So it's neither, and when you learn that, it's just a tool.
Yes.
Just like a rake is just a tool. A lawnmower, it's just a tool. Money is just a tool.
Make your money
and
wealthy
people, money works for them.
Yep.
And so that's just the concept. And I'm excited. You can join us with MoreNopoly and follow our journey by going to www.mystevensgroup.com.
And when does MoreNopoly end?
It ends February 11th, and I have so many people be like, I'm sick of this fast. They're excited, but it's challenging us. And I was just sharing, like, I'm always busy, but I realized I was busy because I was spending
money.
And so, you know, I had one of the persons in MoreNopoly was like, oh, I had a very stressful day. And normally when I'm stressed, I shop. And I just had to come home good. But it ends February 11th.
So next week, we're taking it to the next level.
Ooh, next week. So we're spending cash so people can still eat out and everything. But next week, our challenge is we're eating at no restaurants. So you will have to make all of your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're spending at no restaurants. And that right there is another level of challenge. I know even for me.
Yeah.
You know, so grocery shopping, here I come.
You will be in great preparation for your king. Honey, you will know how to cook. Yes, and prepare the meals.
And I did
on a budget now.
And I did it during when they first shut down the country for the pandemic.
Yes,
I cooked every day: salmon, spinach, bean sprouts. That's my favorite.
Food. It's the
mushrooms.
Best food. Yeah, holistically.
You mentioned that you're spending cash this week, and for MoreNopoly.
No, I've been spending cash. I have not used my debit card. Business expenses I do because the business still have to run. But my personal, I haven't used a credit card or debit card at all. I've been spending cash because that's the challenge. Because what people don't understand, I'm glad that you brought that up. You can overspend with a debit card. At first they were like, huh? How can you overspend the money in there? No. Perfect example. You get up, your intention was to go to Walmart or Target to spend $20 to get tissue.
Yes.
Okay, if you have $20 cash, you're going to spend only $20. If you have your debit card, now you don't pick up washing paper. Now you don't pick up a journal. Now you've picked up stocking hose. You picked up things that you didn't even go to the store. So you have overspent on your debit card, and the funds that you either had for savings or other categories in your budget, you've now taken it from there.
That's so
I
true.
challenge them to limit or not use their debit card at all, cash only, because when you're spending, and we've had testimonies, people that have gone to the grocery store and they've given themselves $130. One of the participants say she gave herself a $130 budget and she was at the register, had to put back stuff. Now, you know you got more money in your account, but because you challenge yourself to not swipe that debit card, she had to put stuff, okay, take that. I don't need that. Take that. Why? It's teaching you to be cognizant of how you spend your money.
Yes. And I had that same experience in Target, in Target, as they say, as a matter of fact. Yeah. I was like, okay.
But the other day I went to the grocery store. Yeah, I went to the grocery store the other day, and that's part of the spending journal because you're right. Is it a need of want, and why did you get it? I went, and that was the first time I spent cash since they invented the debit card. I've never spent cash in the grocery store. Wow. First time. And I've always overspent. So I had to stay within the budget that I had. I had $60, and I think I spent $40-something. And so that is the challenge for us.
Well, look, I'm excited for the MoreNopoly Millennial Edition, so I'll be the first one to sign up for that.
Yes.
So.
Right. And it's free, guys. It's free. And a lot of people say, oh, my God, people pay thousands for this. God say, do it free. Teach people, and that's what we do. When we go through a situation in our life, sometimes we feel like, oh, God, woe is me. I didn't know when I lost everything that I would go on a financial fast, get my financial house in order, and then decades later teach it to other people. Yeah, you didn't know that. Huge. So when Paul says that, when I come back over my life in Romans 8:28, he said, I can tell you when I look back over it, all things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purpose. At that time when I was in the state of losing everything, it did not feel good. But now that I'm sharing my journey and teaching it to others, it's like, okay, God, I can roll with you. Because it was good that I was afflicted. It was good that I lost my house. It was good that I lost my car because I learned how to manage my money. Yes. And so now that I'm getting back to that place of purpose, it's getting ready to be stupid ridiculous now. Yeah. I mean, during this process of MoreNopoly, he's just had me blessing people, sowing $1,000 seed, $500 seed, and people are just shocked because it's just like they show up and I'm like, the Lord told me to give you this. Show up the Lord. They're just shocked, but I'm obeying God. I would have never, if you would have told me in 2008 that I think since I've been doing MoreNopoly, I've probably given away $3,000 or I've probably given away about $4,500. If you would have told me that I would be in a place to give away $4,500, I would say, then I just gave $1,000 to my church yesterday. We needed an item. I said, I got it. Don't worry about it. I'm buying it. And that's what I wanted to be. I want to be a distribution center. And you can only do that when you grab hold of your finances and you understand that money is just a tool.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as our CEO says, okay, guys. We are signing off, but not signing out. We will be back again talking about, and I can't wait to tell a testimony after this fast. So
I'm telling you, and you know, one of the things that I know my purpose in life, and I have this on everything, is intentional transformation. Because I believe that everything happens when you are intentional about the outcome. And that's what MoreNopoly is. It is creating a generation. It is creating a tribe of people that are passionate about pursuing their why. All right. And so thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon.
Until next time.